Well, first, the Buffalo Bill Museum is in Cody. Mm-hmm. It's just outside of Yellowstone. And it's a Smithsonian-style museum.
I will say this. It's a very good museum.
It's like extraordinary.
It's really good.
It's good in the fact that it's a well-done museum.
Yes.
It also, cost-wise, was good. And so it was a very good museum, but it had this, when you were there, you're talking about Buffalo Bill. The whole first part of the museum that you go to is all his history. So his history as a person, as an explorer, then his relationships with Native people and sort of how they changed, and then the Buffalo Bill show, right, which existed in our culture and all through Europe and stuff for years and years and years. Well, it was for an audience that was interested in what the West was, right? Yeah. Not everyone went West, and so it was this sort of experience where, like, you can bring it back to the cities, the major cities in the East, and sort of show what the West is like. This cowboy Indian sort of dynamic and wilderness and blah, blah, blah. And so you go through his whole history. Now, the timeline of his history is the same timeline in which we were wiping out the Indians as we went west, right? We kind of shoved them west of the Mississippi. We made all of these treaties with them saying they could have this land, and then we started expanding west of the Mississippi. And so, but the museum, you have to do cartwheels with your head, because the museum, that you have Buffalo Bill, then you come out, then there's a nice lobby, there's a food area, and you go through this long tunnel. It's all glass, and there are statues, beautiful statues of Native things and Sacagawea, and and then you get into the Native experience, and it's a very well done museum also. But unlike the Buffalo Bill Museum, that part of it, which was timelined out,
it's very chronological, right?
Very chronological. When you went, because you did that, and because your brain could maybe have picked out the dates from what Buffalo Bill was happening with some of the dates happening with Native people, it wasn't done chronologically. It was done in genre. So there was
home and cooking.
Right. Home and cooking. Then there was their culture and spirituality. And then there was children and toys, and so you couldn't correlate in your head that what was happening, some of the bad things that were happening that you were reading, were happening because of and at the same time as Buffalo Bill.
When you go through a museum, it's interesting to think about the reasoning behind how they display it and how they want the person to experience it.
It's like Buffalo Bill's chronological, and the Native people are a cultural experience. Mm-hmm. That they don't have a history. Right? That they existed in this sort of bubble of time, but that theirs is a cultural experience.
Yeah.
And that is really, and it's done purposely. It was done completely purposeful, because if you would have done chronological for both, you would have seen that there was a lot of atrocities going on at the same time that Buffalo Bill was doing his show and and living in his life. And so that was really, it was really well done, but you had, it was sort of stark for me because I'm hyper aware of these things. But for an average family that's teaching kids, it's a great museum, but it doesn't help them put the pieces together. It purposely keeps them
very separate.
Then there was this whole separate part that was just about Yellowstone.
Yeah. And then there was 2 other sections, right? So it's a big museum. And then there was the art. There was an art gallery.
Yeah, with Western art.
Yep. And then there was a whole exhibit of guns.
Yeah. Which I skipped over.
Marissa skipped over. I don't know that much about guns, so I was okay, a rifle and 300 more rifles.
But it's very good, and you get 2 days when you pay. And I think if you had children, you would want to go 2 days.
Yeah.
Because it's too much for, it's long for us, but